Luxury cars are built for speed, power, and status, but when things go wrong, the results can be deadly. In this video, we'll look at 5 real stories of disturbing car crash deaths involving high-end vehicles, cases that ended in destruction, confusion, and tragedy. These are not just accidents, they're warnings.
It's time to go out. Car's gonna be going down. We are going to trains in the next few minutes. It's gonna be going down.
It was the early morning of November 8, 2020 in Harare, Zimbabwe. Inside a Rolls-Royce Wraith, a sleek, powerful machine worth $500,000, sat 4 people who had no idea their lives were minutes from ending in fire and screams. At the wheel was Genius Kadungure, known to thousands as Ginimbi, one of Zimbabwe's most iconic public figures. He had just left his mansion in Domboshava after a night at Dreams nightclub, a venue he owned. It had been a night of flashing lights and flowing champagne, a celebration for Moana, Michelle Amuli, a rising fitness coach and influencer who had just turned 26. She was in the car, glowing from the night's festivities. Alongside her were 2 others, Lumumba Karim, a Malawian businessman with a shadowy past, and a woman from Mozambique, known only as Alicia. Hours earlier, Ginimbi had posted to Instagram his last ever story telling his 600,000 followers they were heading out to continue the party. As the Rolls-Royce glided through the dim streets around 5 a.m., witnesses say the car picked up speed. One man, Danny Kawanga, was driving along Borrowdale Road when he saw it, the Wraith hurtling past him like a silver bullet. Ginimbi attempted to overtake another vehicle, and then in a split second, everything went wrong. A blue Honda Fit appeared from the opposite direction. The Rolls-Royce slammed into it head-on. The luxury car spun out of control, smashed into a tree, and exploded into flames. Witnesses rushed to the scene. One of them, Kawanga, said Ginimbi had been thrown from the car during the crash. He was conscious, barely. 3 men pulled him from the wreckage and laid him on the ground. Within 5 minutes, his body gave out. The others were still inside, trapped. The doors were jammed. People nearby used tree branches and plastic buckets of water, desperate to save them. But it wasn't enough. Inside, Moana, Karim, and Alicia screamed for help. Screams that witnesses say still haunt them to this day. Then silence. By the time emergency crews arrived, it was over. The fire had done its worst. The bodies inside were burned beyond recognition. It took hours to remove the remains from the twisted shell of the once pristine Wraith. The aftermath sent shockwaves across the country. Ginimbi had built his empire from nothing, starting his first gas business at 17. By the time of his death, his fortune was estimated between £7 million and £76 million. He flaunted his collection of Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Bentleys, and lived like a king, throwing wild parties that reportedly cost up to $50,000 each. But behind the wealth was a cloud of suspicion. Ginimbi had been investigated for financial misconduct, and some of his cars had even been seized by authorities. He was also tied by family to Mary Mubaiwa, the estranged wife of Zimbabwe's vice president. His life was as controversial as it was glamorous. Then there was Karim, a fugitive in his own country, wanted for his alleged role in the infamous 2013 Cashgate scandal in Malawi, a scheme involving over £24 million in missing public funds. He had relocated to South Africa to avoid arrest. His presence in that car only deepened the mystery and intrigue of the tragedy. Moana's death was perhaps the most heartbreaking. She had built a name in Zimbabwe's entertainment world, featured in music videos, active on social media, admired by many young women. As for Alicia, no one knows much. Her full identity remains largely a mystery. One witness later said Ginimbi had tried to return to the wreckage, trying to pull his friends out, but the explosion came too fast. He didn't stand a chance. It was a night in January 2022 in Vula. The red Ferrari appeared. Zortzis Manoyos, a 45-year-old businessman from Mykonos, was in the car. It was his first drive in the car he'd waited years to own. A Ferrari 488 worth £250,000. To the world, Zortzis was more than a businessman. Nearly 2 decades earlier, he'd stepped into the public eye at just 23, appearing on the Greek version of The Wall, a popular reality show. A computer science student at the time, his calm presence and gentle eyes made him a standout. A brief romance with fellow contestant Giannakopoulou didn't last long, but it kept his name alive in the media long after the cameras stopped rolling. After the show, he left the spotlight behind and returned to Mykonos. There, he built something real, a clothing brand called Georgie. It started with one store, then another. Tourists knew his name. Locals respected it. He wasn't flashy, but he had charm. With Athena, he had 2 children. But all of that shattered in seconds. Just under 2 miles from the dealership where he'd picked up his dream car, Zortzis was driving along Constantinou Karamanli Street. At some point, something appeared on the road. A pedestrian, witnesses would later say. Zortzis reacted. The Ferrari swerved, and then came the sound dot. The car slammed into a tree. The front crumpled like paper. Flames exploded almost instantly, lighting up the night like a flare. Greek singer Stan happened to be driving behind them. He saw it all. He watched the fire ignite. Without hesitating, he ran toward the wreck. Athena had been partially thrown from the car, injured, broken, but still reachable. Stan got to her just in time. He pulled her away from the inferno as the fire surged. She collapsed, burned and bloodied, but alive. Zortzis was still inside. His body was trapped behind the wheel, flames licking the interior. Another relative who had been following in a separate car arrived seconds later and tried to reach him, but it was too late. Bystanders stood helpless as the Ferrari was consumed in fire. Footage taken by onlookers showed the car engulfed, the paint blistering off, the metal turning black in seconds. Zortzis' body was found inside, charred beyond recognition. The drive had lasted just minutes. His life ended almost as soon as it began anew. Athena was rushed to the General State Hospital of Nicaea. For days, her condition remained uncertain, but she survived. Police launched an investigation immediately. Zortzis' sister, Katerina Manoyos, a member of the Greek parliament, was flooded with messages from across the country. People remembered her brother not for the flames, but for his warmth, his gentleness, his quiet strength. In the years that followed, Athena recovered physically, but the emotional scars never faded. She and Katerina focused on one thing, raising the children in a way that honored who Zortzis was, calm, kind, and deeply loved.
2 people are dead after a car crash that left one car cut in half this afternoon, according to Dallas Fire Rescue. Happened about 3:15 this afternoon at Abrams Road near Royal Lane in the Lake Highlands area.
It was December afternoon in Dallas, Texas, just after 3 p.m. A black McLaren hypercar shot down Abrams Road like a bullet, slicing through traffic with terrifying speed. Witnesses later said the engine wasn't just loud, it screamed. This wasn't a casual drive. This was raw, unleashed power. Inside the car were 2 men, 29-year-old Cristoel Flores Espino and 31-year-old Robert Leroy Rocha. The street they were on wasn't a racetrack. It was lined with homes, families, and children just released from Forest Meadow Middle School. And yet, the McLaren surged forward, swallowing distance with every blink. As the car neared the intersection of Abrams Road and Royal Lane, it lost control. The hypercar veered sharply, the tires screeching against the asphalt, and then, impact. The McLaren struck a massive tree with such force that the car split in 2. By the time emergency crews from Dallas Fire Rescue arrived, the scene was already chaos. Pieces of the car were everywhere. Phones recorded the devastation, and Cristoel and Robert, both gone, pronounced dead at the scene. Their bodies trapped in wreckage so mangled it took heavy rescue tools just to get close. This wasn't an accident. It was a full-speed annihilation, and it didn't end there. Another vehicle, a gold Toyota sedan, had been hit or forced off the road. A woman was inside. She'd crashed into a separate tree during the chaos. Her car's front end was crushed, but she was alive. Paramedics rushed her to the hospital. Non-life-threatening injuries, they said. But she was shaken, broken, and lucky to be alive. The sound of the crash had drawn neighbors from their homes. Some ran toward the wreck. Others stood frozen on their lawns. 911 calls flooded in. Within minutes, the road was shut down. Photos and videos hit the internet fast. The McLaren was nearly unrecognizable. Its front half, the section carrying both men, had been crumpled into something that no longer resembled a car. The rear sat isolated in the street like some eerie monument to what had just happened. It was believed to be a McLaren 570S coupe, a masterpiece of engineering, a machine capable of hitting 62 miles per hour in just over 3 seconds, with a top speed north of 200. It was not built for roads like Abrams, not meant for school zones. Police began their investigation immediately. Lieutenant Tracy Jones told reporters they were looking at everything: speed, distractions, mechanical failure. There were no signs of a police chase, no reports of a stolen vehicle. At that point, no confirmation of substances involved. Just a silent, urgent question. Why? The location made everything worse. This wasn't just any street. It was a zone where children cross every afternoon, where families walk hand in hand, a place where a speeding supercar doesn't just risk lives, it threatens an entire community's sense of safety. By morning, candles and flowers had appeared beneath the tree. Locals left handwritten notes. Some whispered prayers, others simply stood and stared at the damage. Though Christoel and Robert weren't celebrities, their deaths rippled through the neighborhood like a shock wave. The street felt different now, heavier, quieter, broken. The McLaren 570S is made from carbon fiber, a material known for absorbing extreme impacts, but no engineering can compensate for decisions made in a split second at terrifying speed. The front of the car was so violently crushed it looked like it had been folded in half. The rear, though almost intact, had been hurled away with such force it might as well have belonged to a different vehicle. No one inside stood a chance. The woman in the Toyota survived and began helping police understand what happened in the final seconds. Her version of events helped clarify the scene, but not the why. That question lingers. Investigators are still combing through footage, vehicle data, and witness statements. They want to know, was it reckless speed alone? Or did something else trigger the crash? A mechanical failure? A moment of panic? A decision that couldn't be taken back? It was a warm September afternoon in Sardinia, Italy. Rolling hills, stone villas, and tight, winding roads framed the perfect setting for the Sardinia supercar experience, a luxury rally where Ferraris and Lamborghinis raced through the countryside like bolts of lightning. Among the exotic cars was a red Ferrari Portofino driven by 67-year-old Marcus Crowley, with his 63-year-old wife, Melissa, in the passenger seat. The Swiss couple from Wallace, near Zurich, shared a love for travel, speed, and each other. Marcus ran a successful logistics firm across Europe, and Melissa worked in HR at the same company. The supercar rally, priced between £10,000 and £21,000, was just another adventure in their storybook life. Ahead of them, a blue Lamborghini Huracan glided along the narrow 195 Salsitana State Road. Behind the wheel was Indian billionaire Vikas Oberoi, with his wife, Bollywood actress Gayatri Joshi, beside him. The road north from Fort Village to Morris was picturesque but perilous. 2 narrow lanes, no room for mistakes. Then came the camper van. Slow and steady, the white van became a roadblock for the roaring supercars. But patience was scarce that day. A dashcam, later revealed to belong to a German tourist, captured what happened next. The Lamborghini attempted to overtake the van, crossing a solid white line, illegal in Italy. At that exact moment, Marcus tried to pass both vehicles in the Ferrari. The Lamborghini veered into the Ferrari's path. In seconds, metal clashed. The Ferrari clipped the Lamborghini and lost control, while the Lamborghini slammed into the camper, flipping it onto its side. The Ferrari veered off-road, hit an embankment, and erupted into flames. Thick smoke rose into the sky. Trapped inside, Marcus and Melissa were heard screaming, but by the time emergency crews arrived, including an air ambulance, the Ferrari was a smoldering wreck. Neither survived. The camper's passengers, a couple from northern Italy, were shaken but alive. They crawled out and were treated for minor injuries. The Lamborghini had come to rest at the bottom of a slope. Gayatri Joshi was seen crying on the roadside, while Vikas stood nearby, frozen in disbelief. Police quickly launched an investigation. All 3 vehicles were seized. The dashcam footage showed the Lamborghini crossing a solid line. A key detail, though not formally charged, Vikas Oberoi was placed under investigation for double road homicide, an offense that could carry up to 7 years in prison. Yet, he was allowed to return to India days later. Meanwhile, footage of other rally drivers running red lights and breaking laws surfaced online, exposing the darker side of the event. What was sold as luxury began to look more like recklessness on parade. For Marcus and Melissa, the thrill became a tragedy. They had chased one more unforgettable ride and paid the ultimate price, a moment of impatience, a misjudged pass, and in an instant everything ended. The road was closed for hours. Investigators examined the wreckage, charred rubber, twisted steel, and the lingering smell of fire. In Switzerland, their co-workers mourned the loss of 2 lives once so full of motion, and now 2 seats in that red Ferrari remained forever empty, a haunting symbol of how even in paradise, speed and power can turn deadly in the blink of an eye. It was just after 3 a.m. on a quiet Sunday morning, October 2nd, 2022, in St. Petersburg, Florida. 3 teenage boys moved silently through a neighborhood, like shadows in the night. 15-year-olds Mario Bonilla and Condre Lang, along with 16-year-old Malachi Daniels, weren't out for a walk. They weren't going anywhere in particular. They were searching, not for something specific, but for opportunity. Lang used the edge of his shirt to pull on car door handles, one by one, careful not to leave fingerprints. They didn't expect anything dramatic, maybe a wallet, maybe loose change. But then, at a driveway near 62nd Avenue North and 28th Street North, they found it. A white 2016 Maserati, unlocked, keys sitting right there inside, waiting. Lang slid into the driver's seat. Bonilla took the front passenger spot. Daniels climbed in back. None of them had licenses. None of them had permission. None of them had any idea they were being watched. Overhead, silent in the night sky, a sheriff's helicopter had been circling the area on an unrelated call, until it noticed movement below. 3 figures, checking cars, then slipping into the Maserati. The deputies in the air didn't hesitate. They radioed for ground units. At 3:20 a.m., the Maserati rolled out of the driveway and turned onto 62nd Avenue. No headlights, no hesitation. It was now a stolen vehicle on the move. On the ground, marked patrol cars pulled up, emergency lights flashing. But the chase didn't happen the way you'd expect. The Pinellas County Sheriff's Office had rules. No high-speed pursuits unless absolutely necessary. A supervising sergeant called it off. Deputies slowed to 35 miles per hour and fell back. But Lang didn't know that. He thought he was being hunted. He panicked. He floored it. The helicopter continued to track the car from above, recording everything. Lang pushed the gas harder, faster. The Maserati tore through the night like a bullet. And then, in an instant, everything shattered. The car was flying, 123 miles per hour. No seatbelts, no control. The Maserati jumped a curb, slammed into a business sign, flipped, and came crashing down on its roof in a parking lot. Crushed, folded in half, Bonilla never had a chance. He died instantly in the passenger seat. Daniels was mangled in the back, critically injured, clinging to life. Lang survived, but barely, pulled from the wreckage with serious injuries. Deputies arrived within seconds. The scene was chaos. Broken glass, twisted steel, the stench of gasoline in the air. The helicopter's camera had caught it all, from the boys slipping into the car to the final, horrific crash just 90 seconds later. Inside the destroyed vehicle, investigators found something else. A .25 caliber handgun, rusted and old, unregistered since 1968. None of the boys were hardened criminals, but they were slipping. Just 3 weeks earlier, on September 11th, they had been stopped by deputies while wandering another neighborhood before dawn. Parents were called. No charges filed. Everyone hoped it was a close call, a warning. But that night, they left their homes unnoticed, slipped into the dark with no good plan and no idea what was coming. In the days after, investigators sat with the families. One father said he had even transferred his son to another school, hoping for a fresh start, hoping to steer him away from trouble. But fate had already turned. Sheriff Bob Gualtieri didn't sugarcoat it. They were making bad decisions, he said, and they hadn't faced any real consequences. Until now. The owner of the Maserati, who'd left the car unlocked with the keys inside, was contacted. His mistake, too, had consequences. At a press conference, the sheriff urged the public, lock your cars, don't leave keys inside, because one careless choice can lead to tragedy. And this was tragedy. One boy dead, another fighting for his life, the third alive but likely to spend years behind bars, all before reaching adulthood.